morning.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Juice in the Morning and Paulies Sleepers Fantasy Football Podcast. It is the best fantasy football podcast in East Central Indiana, and I could possibly go out on a limb and say the best fantasy football podcast in all of Indiana. How are you guys doing today? I like to see Paulie to my left, and I like your shirt too today, man.
Josh got me this Game of Thrones reference. I draft and I know things.
I love it. There's so much going on around the league. There's so much going on in this podcast. We've got so many things to talk about. Got some drops. John's wearing a pink shirt. How are you doing today, man?
Doing pretty good. Thanks for having me back.
It's very warm. I think it's something that makes me even more excited than I already was to be here.
That's the show. The shirt is excited.
Yeah, he's John's playing it cool. He beat me in Madden yesterday, so I'm kind of feeling the sting of that loss right now. So I might give him a little bit of shit today.
But you've got a lot of losses to stew over, right
dude.
now.
It's a rough week. Jackson, how are you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. Fight on.
Yeah, he's hanging out in his USC shirt.
Dude,
God, I just noticed it.
I know.
Oh, my God. But we've got a great show lined up for you guys. We're going to get deep into the listener league. We're going to be making some phone calls. We got some DraftKings. Got a lot of stuff. So really, I just want to start it off. And, Paulie, this is for the news segment.
I've got some good news.
I got some bad news.
That was awesome.
It's so that you have some good news and bad news. There's injuries. There's all kinds of stuff. I just feel like I got to explain it a little bit.
Awesome drop. We've got all kinds of new drops. Juice has been playing around with the soundboard. So everybody's got their own drops, and it's just going to make the show even better, I think.
Do you like that? Did you like the slow one at the end?
Oh, that was beautiful, man.
Right,
absolutely.
Cool.
A good mashup. First of all, I'd like to say that thanks to all the fans for the support. We're growing. Last week was a huge show, and everybody's listening right now because they like fantasy football. And I think our job is to make you love fantasy football like we do. So thanks for tuning in. Breaking news, Rex Burkhead has been put on the IR. So he's got a myriad of issues, but one being a strained neck. So we've got some clarity in the New England backfield. We have Sony Michel, who has gotten 35 snaps the last 2 weeks and 27 touches in those snaps. So when he's out there, he sees the ball. And then James White has been very consistent. So it's hard to play those guys because there's a three-man rotation. And next week there probably will be a three-man rotation again. They'll pick up Samaje Perine or Christine Michael or one of these guys. But for right now, owners of both of those running backs should be happy and ready to employ them. Everybody's kind of talking about there's a lot of talk about Sony, which makes me think it's a James White week.
Right. Is the Patriots era over? Is it on its way out? I mean, they're what? They've got a worse record than the Browns right now.
Somebody asked me about this on Twitter today, and they were like, they're trash. And I was like, look, man, I'm a Colts fan. But we don't count out the Patriots around here.
Right.
And he was like, man, and I was like, he was like, this game, the Lions ran all over him, the Lions. And I was like, yeah, that's just one game. And he's like, yeah, but they're 1-2. So I went back and did some research, and I came back and I was like, again, not a Patriots fan here, but we got to look at in the Brady era, 4 times they've started 2-2 or 1-2. And they've gone on to only lose 2 games the rest of the season, each of those 4 seasons.
Sample size is too large to count them out right
and
now.
One of them was last year, so they'll figure it out. The addition of Josh Gordon is really going to help and get that double team off of Gronk. But Rex Burkhead owners, if you have an IR slot, put him in there because they'll probably want to bring him back later in the year, and he could still be a lead winner later. Jack Doyle and Eric Ebron are both hurt. Doyle's going to be out for weeks. I'm thinking Ebron is being held out because they will need him so much this week because there will be no Jack Doyle.
I didn't know they were both hurt.
Yeah.
I just knew that Doyle was.
Yeah, Doyle missed last week. Now they're saying he's going to be out, quote unquote, weeks. And Ebron was held out of practice. Hopefully that's a Veterans Day off, and also like, hey, we need you, buddy, kind of day off. And also maybe 3 red zone drops, is unhealthy.
That was a drop day off.
Yeah.
I'll just go from
maybe
there.
Maybe 3 red zone drops is unhealthy. Now, one of the drops, I watched the game. One of the drops I would definitely not attribute to him. But the other 2 were definitely catchable, and he was a core player for Jackson and I in DFS last week, and he burned us. So Ebron can sit out as long as he wants to. As far as we're not too happy with him right now. Alvin Kamara has a new knee issue, so it's kind of big when there wasn't an injury in the game, and then all of a sudden he has a knee. I'm hoping it's just another Veterans Day off, but that's something to monitor. The biggest news this week is Jimmy Garoppolo's torn ACL, and that the hits just keep on coming for that team. They lost Jerick McKinnon. Now they lost Jimmy Garoppolo for the season. CJ Beathard, who was their starter last year before they traded for him, is going to be a capable starter, but that team's probably going to be one of the worst teams, I would imagine. But one thing you really want to look at here is he was college roommates with the tight end George Kittle. So they played together in Iowa. They had a pretty good rapport last year before Jimmy came along. Actually, he averages more targets with CJ Beathard in the game. So if people are thinking, oh, well, George Kittle is done if he's your tight end, I think he might actually see a little uptick. But other than that, they
definitely got into some weird stuff being roommates together in college.
Yeah.
The trust there is just, it's
amazing.
Yeah, I think it's undeniable.
Yeah, they do the thing where they fall backwards into each other's arms and catch each other. But,
Trustful.
3.5 targets a game with Jimmy, 5.7 targets a game with CJ. But people that have like Marquise Goodwin need to just let go of that. And actually, Wilson in our listener league dropped Marquise Goodwin for.
I think somebody tried to trade me Marquise Goodwin.
Yeah,
I think it was Wilson.
Yeah, and he dropped him for Sterling Shepard, which was a great. But yeah, if you have Marquise Goodwin, CJ will dink and dunk, and Goodwin was going to be supposedly a great player because Jimmy G likes to uncork it. So
Niners are part of my hot take.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So more Niners news later, guys.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's news.
Josh Gordon getting up to speed is not going to be a problem, according to Josh McDaniels. He is practicing, still limited with the hamstring. I think we'll see him this week. You don't need an extensive knowledge of the playbook to run 9 routes. And like I said, I think that will definitely benefit Gronk. So your boy Josh Gordon might see the field this week.
Man, I wanted him to see the field last week. I was really pissed that he
could have used him.
I was very excited about it. And I was like, and they did the exact Patriot thing that they would do, which is 5-10 minutes before kickoff, you get the alert. Oh, Josh Gordon's out. So I started scrambling trying to find a wide receiver, and I actually didn't take John's advice and pick up a guy from the Monday night game. I ended up picking up a guy for the Sunday night game, Cordero Patterson, which that's nothing. I think he may have caught 1 ball.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. I think you picked up on my Twitter post was, the Patriots will take every advantage they can.
Yeah.
And one advantage was making the Lions,
game plan
wait till the last minute and game plan for.
Didn't help, fucking Patriots, you bastards. Sorry, I'll hold off on the F-bomb. We'll start getting a bleep button or something.
John's going to keep track of our virtual swear jar because John does not partake in the verbal.
You didn't have an F-bomb the entire last week.
Expletives.
You get a bonus point.
So
he's a man of few words anyway.
That's your first. That's your first swear jar word, and we're just going with F. Everything else, shit. I really don't give a damn. I warned against picking up Jesse James. It's a trap, was what I said, and the Steelers traded for Vance McDonald,
and that was a success.
And Vance had a great day
stiff
last
arm.
week. Yeah, the stiff arm.
Dude, he put Chris Conti on IR.
He put Chris Conti on. Now it's coming out that Conti was playing with a torn PCL.
I don't care.
But here's
Get
the
out of here,
thing. He
dude.
put Chris Conti on IR. Let's just leave it there.
And James Harrison's reaction to that was just so funny. If you've seen, the replays on Facebook and Twitter of that, just nasty stiff arm.
Dude, you got stiff armed through the ground. It's just terrible.
It was really nasty. He got stiff armed right into the medical tent and right onto the IR. But he had a monster game, 4 for 114 and 1. So he's the one that you're going to want moving forward. And Josh Miller didn't listen to my advice. He picked up Jesse James last week, and he's like, Paulie, I should have listened to you. I don't get them all right, guys. But definitely knew that Vance is much more athletic. So moving forward, I think he's going to be a good guy to pick up. AJ Green left with initially they said a groin injury, but he landed on his hip weird. Then they were checking out his shoulder. Now they're saying that he's limited in practice with a pelvis. But he's had kind of an on and off growing injury since college, so maybe they just kind of default to groin whenever they announce his injuries. Like, oh, it's not the groin? Oh, we're just assuming it's always the groin. But the reality is he went way up high in the air and landed weird on his hip. He says he's fine. Players always say they're fine. I mean, I would definitely keep a big eye on that injury this week. People were saying, Tyler Boyd is going to be a great play if AJ Green sits. I think he's a great play either way, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. There's a lot of news today, guys. Changing of the guard this week in news. We saw Mayfield on the field. We saw Josh Allen beat the Vikings at Minnesota, which was just unbelievable. Mayfield came back and got that Thursday night win. And we saw a little bit of Josh Rosen at the end of that Arizona game. I can't believe they put him in when the game was on the line. And then they give the ball to Chase Edwards instead of David Johnson. And it's just, I don't know what's going on there. I hope that Josh Rosen elevates that team. But definitely, you've got two teams that are really down in the dumps lately, the Bills and the Browns, that were elevated, and the fans have something to talk about now. Mayfield's comeback was just unbelievable. Great game there. He dissected and threw into some really tight windows. I mean, when you talk about a tight window throw, a couple of those windows were like literally just the size of a ball. There was one down the middle of the field, this seam ball that just, it had to go in this one particular spot for Landry to catch it, and he did. And so that was great. And then Josh Allen just owned Anthony Barr of the Vikings. He leapt over him. I don't know. Did you see that?
I didn't get to see that game.
It was a pretty good play for a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, you see like Alvin Kamara leap over guys. It was like one of those plays. I mean, quarterbacks don't do that. He leaped over him standing straight up, and there's all kinds of memes of him like leaping over the Bills Josh Robbie Stadium, of him leaping over two actual buffaloes. So then later in the game, he stiff-armed. Everybody's talking about the Conley stiff-arm, but Josh Allen had a crazy stiff-arm on the same dude that he leaped over, Anthony Barr. He stiff-armed
I heard was how athletic Josh Allen looked in that game. That's all I heard everybody talk about.
Like I said last week, he was my favorite quarterback in the draft. Nothing against Baker Mayfield and these other guys, but he was my top-ranked guy in the draft, and he ran in 2 touchdowns. One of them was a great just run for the pylon and dove over the pylon. So he elevates that team, and hopefully he elevates the LaShawn McCoy owners, Jackson and I being one of them. He's
playing this week. Yeah, he's playing.
We traded for McCoy, hoping that his ceiling would be higher with the rookie, and Chris Ivory had a good week, so it looks like that might be the case. But I want to bring this up because go ahead, John.
I saw a video on Twitter showing the fastest touchdowns of the week, and Josh Allen was number 4 with a top speed of 20.1 miles per hour. So
that's fast for a quarterback.
Yep.
But I want to bring this up because we've got kind of a changing of the guard here coming. In a couple years, there will be no Ben Roethlisberger or Drew Brees or Tom Brady. It's going to be Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, Baker Mayfield. So it's something, watching these rookies win or lose.
It's exciting to see them where they're at, especially.
Exactly. And it's franchises that need a boost, and they've got something to talk about. And the Browns fans right now are the baker's dozen. I mean, I'm going to make sure that sticks. They talk about the 12th man.
Well, and I also think that I think just the players that you have that are playing quarterback right now are like they're all kind of cut from the same cloth. They're all pretty much athletes. They can run, but they can also have like a gigantic cannon for an arm too. So it's like, I mean, it's Aaron Rodgers except for more athletic, because Aaron Rodgers looks just kind of like a regular guy, but he has like a cannon for an arm, and he's elusive. But Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be killing you as like as a runner. But he does avoid the sacks, and I just think the guys that are in there right now, they're going to be changing the game a little bit. But the dumbass roughing the passer rule, man.
Dude,
I don't know how that's going to affect everybody. I don't know how they're going to continue that. Are they going to keep it going? Like, are they going to keep making it so that people have to lightly lay the person on the ground?
Right.
Like,
the competition committee is meeting this week talking about it, and it won't be likely to have any changes. I mean, Clay Matthews, he just went down on 2 knees, shaking his head, because it's happened to him 3 weeks in a row,
and it was literally game-changing plays.
It's
like, I mean,
it's a textbook tackle, but you're not supposed to keep driving with your weight onto the guy, so you're supposed to roll off of him like you just got done having sex or something.
But it makes the product of the game, like actually watching the game, and like,
well, it just makes it worse.
Yeah, because like I watched the Monday night game, and it's like every other player, every play was like a roughing the passer. It's like, dude, just let the game go.
I hate to say it, it's good for fantasy scoring for wide receivers because these drives are going to be kept alive, and
it's good for quarterbacks.
Yeah,
I mean quarterbacks want to come out and say that they don't even like it because Rodgers was like, I think, quoted as saying that he thinks it's a bad rule. But I mean, I don't think they're complaining when they get a 15-yard penalty.
Right,
they can keep playing.
It does suck. I just
stay on the field.
I have to throw that out there that drives are being extended by this.
It's bad for bettors too.
I'm not sure if I mentioned this last week, but the one thing that they can try to do to negate those is take a page out of Khalil Mack's book and tackle the football instead of the quarterback. That's what he does. He sacks the football. He doesn't sack the quarterback.
That's a good move.
Yeah. So many forced fumbles on quarterbacks.
And then you could get the ball back for your team too. So
exactly.
Okay, that's a
I like that. I like that point of view.
Yeah. Marcus Mariota will play this week, but he still can't make all the throws. So that team is in disarray, but they are going to get their star.
But didn't they just beat the Jaguars?
It was such a crazy game. It was like 9-6 or something.
Don't even get me started. But like, we're not even going to talk about it.
Blaine Gabbert went out with a concussion, and Mariota came in, so he played a little last week, but he's going to be ready to go this week. Matt Breida hyperextended his knee, so if he misses this week, Alfred Morris will be probably a pretty decent play if somebody needs a flex injury or something, or needs somebody to cover a flex or a bye week. And Alfred Morris might see some extended work this week versus the Chargers. I mean, that's going to be a tough game. I'm definitely not calling for Alfred Morris to have a huge blow up game. They both scored last week, but it's an injury you want to watch into. TJ Yeldon and Leonard Fournette are both day-to-day. So I look for maybe an uptick for Ryan Grant this week. Again, not a guy that I'm saying everybody should run out to go pick up, but might be a weird kind of week that we don't know what's going on and don't know who to start. I would say, unless you get a firm start on Leonard Fournette, if you've got other options, might not be a good week for him.
Hasn't Fournette just been really pissing people off for like the last 2 years? Where they're like, he's going to be playing. Oh, he's not going to play. Oh, he's going to play. No, he's not going to play.
Yeah, it's back and forth with that. I mean, anybody else have any ideas about Leonard Fournette and what owners should do?
I mean, I have Fournette in like one of my money leagues, and it's like it's so frustrating because it's like, okay, like I didn't think he was going to play last week, but like you hear the stuff today, he's going to play. So it's like, okay, I'm bracing for him to play this week, but possibly do I need to go on the waiver and pick up another guy just for precautionary reasons, but I mean, it's a very frustrating matter.
What was tough for me is I picked up TJ Yeldon thinking, okay, well, he's going to be a great play. And the 2 weeks ago when he played, he didn't do anything.
Right.
So it is getting very frustrating, and the landscape of running backs right now is almost just as bad as tight ends.
Imagine how frustrated the Jacksonville Jaguars are.
Yeah. Yeah.
They lost a game 6-9.
Yeah. Gio had a big week last week. Joe Mixon is still out. He's trending in the right direction, but he won't play this week. So Gio's in another great spot.
When's Gio supposed to be back? Or not Gio, Mixon. When is he supposed to be back?
I would say probably the next week. Mm-hmm. Hard to say right now, but he's trending in the right direction. I don't think he'll start this week, but I think that he'll probably play week 5, which is going to make Gio a great play again this week. He had like 19 fantasy points in PPR last week. And Atlanta's middle of the defense has just been decimated. Jay Ajayi and Darren Sproles should be good to go this week. So you've got Jay Ajayi on some teams. Choose
one team, and I hope that I can play him.
Yeah,
but I'm worried about him. Like, is he going to just play, a quarter of the snaps? Like, is that like what they're going to do?
Maybe he gets the goal lines though.
Yeah, that's true. But I'd just like to see him. I'm very concerned about that team because I don't have anything solid in the running back department.
But that's the team you need to see. Like, you need to see enough evidence with Wentz being back 1 week. You need, like, hey, I need 3-4 weeks of a sample size just to see, like, what this team actually. They're not they are not the team from last year. They're not. But you need to see what they can do week in and week out going forward.
Yeah, good point. Good point. There's a possibility that Dalvin Cook plays tomorrow night. He's back in practice limited, and they're saying that there's definitely a possibility that he'll play. So
I got to keep an eye on that, too.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I know. There's a lot. Like I said, there's a lot of injuries this week, guys, but there's a lot of stuff to look at. But Dalvin did not look very good prior to the injury. That offensive line is really, really, really bad. That's why the Lat Murray play was not a good play last week. I was wrong on that for sure. Lat Murray sucked because they never really had a chance to kind of own the
But
clock.
that whole game screwed over so many people.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just like we were like what we were saying,
but it was
or what
the
everybody else was
offensive
saying.
line. Their offensive line is really bad. I mean, Dalvin Cook, I think, was averaging 2.8 yards per carry prior to the injury. So this isn't just a product of him being out of the game. It's definitely the offensive line. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, Latavius Murray is between the tackles, runner, and if the line can't get any push whatsoever, he's going to average 1 yard per carry like he did last week. So
it was
he's not
so bad.
He's really fast, but he's never going to break out to the outside and be elusive and make guys miss or anything like that. So
yeah, good word. He is not elusive. Devontae Freeman is trending up, but I'd be really surprised if we saw him this week. So it's another Tevin Coleman week, and you've got Tevin Coleman, Gio Bernard, kind of the same type of combo players that are very fantasy relevant right now. So if you have those guys, you can employ them and be happy. Marlon Mack is practicing limited with his hamstring. So, I cautioned a lot of people against drafting this guy, and I'm not saying I called the injury. I just didn't think he was built for a feature back workload. And one thing I want everybody to remember, because there's not that much this right now to pick up for running backs, Robert Turbin comes back next week. And I know, man, but he looked a lot faster in the preseason.
The bowling ball?
Yeah. And I used to thought he was just a 2-yard goal line guy, but he looked a lot faster in the preseason. Whatever drugs he took made his arms like freaking sequoias. And it was obvious the way that they used him in the preseason. I think they're going to feature him. I think he's going to be a first and second down back. Probably very limited for PPR upside, but again, there's not that much out there right now. In a standard league, or if you're in a 12-team league or more, like, I hope the St. Elmo guys aren't listening. I'm trying to pick up Robert Turbin tonight. Their waivers are weird. They don't, like, most waivers cleared yesterday. Their waivers cleared tonight, but I'm trying to pick up Robert Turbin because I think he could definitely breathe some fresh air into the Colts running game. And that's actually, a little spoiler alert on a hot take of mine.
Right on.
And Evan Ingram is week to week. He's another guy that's just going to be in and out of medical issues. I mean, that guy's definitely an injury-prone guy. But like I mentioned before, Sterling Shepard gets a big boost this week. So if he's on your waiver wire, he's a good pickup this week. And he's going against...
I feel like Sterling Shepard shouldn't be on the waiver wire. Is he on the waiver wire in a lot of leagues?
Yeah, he's only rostered in like 60% of leagues.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, he's not an every week starter, but I think the stars are aligning for him next week. If Calvin Ridley, who had 3 touchdowns last week against the Saints, we're going against Patrick Robinson, and Patrick Robinson is now out for an extended period of time. So,
well, he's on IR now, but I mean, the biggest thing with Shepard is like the addition of Barkley, like, hinders his, like, what he can do. Like, you still have Odell, you have Ingram, then you have Barkley. It's like you need an injury like what's happening now for Shepard to even be relevant, I think.
So the Ingram injury will boost his value.
Yeah.
And basically, you've got Patrick Robinson, who could not guard Calvin Ridley to save his soul. You've got the guy that is his backup now trying to guard Sterling Shepard. So
yeah.
I think that all stars are aligning for that. And Alshon is practicing, so may see him back next week. And Doug Baldwin may see him back next week too.
Old Dougie B.
He was on the waiver wire in one of my leagues. I picked him up this morning, put him on the IR spot. I was like, dude,
hell yeah, you did.
If he comes back, like, I'm set.
Another guy like that's trending like a lot quicker than people thought is Greg Olsen, and the landscape for tight ends has been very, very shaky. So if you have an IR spot or a bench spot that you can stash, I think Greg Olsen is a great pickup and stash right now.
Quick question with IR spots, and this is completely a dumb question probably, but
go ahead.
does the player have to be injured to keep him rostered on your IR spot?
Yes.
So then if he comes back, does it like send you an alert that you have to like drop
You
somebody
get like
else?
an email. Or I get a notification.
What happens is you can be fine and not do anything if he changes his status, but you can't make any moves.
Okay.
If you try to pick somebody up on waivers, you will have too many guys on your team.
Because somebody in one of my other leagues was like, "Hey, do we have an IR spot?" And I was like, "No," and he was like, "Man, that sucks." And I was like, "Okay." So he was probably looking at somebody that was injured, thinking, "Hey, I think he's coming back soon."
The way IR works is if you're suspended, you can't go in there. But if you're out, you can put your player in the IR slot. And then if you fill that slot and you try to pick somebody up off of waivers the next week and the guy is now a questionable or he's going to play, it will make you drop somebody because now you have too many players on your team.
Makes sense.
If you don't do anything on ESPN, it won't say anything. It won't make you drop a player. But it will if you try to pick somebody up.
Right on.
Assuming that spot doesn't work for people who are holding out. Like Le'Veon Bell.
I got him on the IR spot in one of my leagues.
I think that you can actually.
It probably depends on the league. It probably depends on settings and things like that.
In Yahoo, you can. On Sleeper Bot, if they have an IR, you can. In ESPN, I don't think you can IR a holdout. But I could be wrong. So that's it for news and notes. We're going to go into the Listener League.
Oh, yeah. We're going into Dive Deep. I put something together just for a little quick. I think you guys are going to like it. It's something that I want to keep doing for the Listener League. It's going to be kind of like a quick hits thing, so you guys chime in at the end, but don't interrupt too much in the during the thing, okay? Listener League Deep Dive. This week, we thought Wilson might have been a female. Due to some Twitter investigative work by Josh Miller, we found out that he is actually a male. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it. Leading off, Hero Juice in the AM falls to 1-2 against D. Bolden and the I'm a Need About Tree Fitty. He's 3-0. That's one of those 3-0 teams. Jersey Shore Rejects drops to 1-2 while losing to AJ Green's Red Rocket. Josh Miller's Red Rocket advances to 3-0. Barlow and Brian Titus have a hard-fought battle, but Brian and his team, bar is low for you, Dan, improves because it's Dan Barlow and Brian Titus. Dan improves to 1-2. Welcome to the suck, and I'm sorry. Bar is low for you, Dan. Brian Titus improves to 1-2, and then welcome to the suck, and Dan falls to 1-2. The closest and most surprising matchup of the week goes to Paulies Sleepers. They lose to Lucky Trade Happy Wilson. Both teams are now 1-2. Jeff Fiddler and the Monday American. The Monday American went as it was expected. He ended with a loss and ends up 0-3, while Jeff Fiddler ends up 3-0. So that is the deep dive into the Listener League recap of the wins and losses. How did you guys feel about your loss this week, Paulie Sleepers?
Not too good, man. We played Ricky Wilson, and we had traded him both of the Baltimore running backs, Buck Allen and Alex Collins, for LaShawn McCoy and Devontae Freeman. He wanted to get rid of some injured players, and either one of those Baltimore running backs in our second running back slot would have won us the game. So we traded away the win to Mr. Trade Happy Wilson, and he was obviously ecstatic that he got the win. He said this is the toughest league that he's in. He's in like 8 leagues. He said one of them he's just complete trash. 6 of them he's very, very strong. And he said this one is, he's kind of somewhere in the middle.
Well, it's crazy. League. It's crazy to look at this Listener League because there is 3 teams 3-0. there is one team 0-3, and then the rest of us are 1-3. So there's a lot of parity besides the top 3.
It's amazing.
But even in the top 3, I think they're vulnerable. I think there's a chance for any of us to beat any of those in the top 3. There is a team in other leagues that I play in that, there's teams here and there in other teams or leagues that I play in that are unquestionably a good team. Like, you just see all of their all-star players on
right,
the
and
team.
you go, oh, holy shit, I got to play them
in this
week.
league, I feel like there is not a team that is like, they're far and away going to win this.
Right.
Even though they're 3-0. Like,
right.
I know they're confident. We're going to talk to them, and they talk a lot of smack. But like I said, I feel like the cream always rises to the top, and those people will fall to the bottom eventually. It's going to happen. My team is too good for it to continue this way.
Jeff's team is really good. He's 3-0. Josh is admittedly kind of squeaking by at 3-0. And 2 of the 3-0 teams face off this week, right? Jeff faces
somebody's getting a loss.
Dylan, who we're going to call here in a minute.
And hopefully 2 are getting a loss. And I would appreciate that. And then we're going to win. That's what I'm hoping for. I mean, I don't mind if Paulies Sleepers wins, but
we can wait.
Juice in the Morning is going to definitely win.
Well, we've got Gert Squirt, who is the 0-3 team this week. That's the Monday morning podcast.
Monday Morning American. I don't know what you're doing over there, Andrew, but you got to get your stuff together.
His team looks good. Like, his team looks better than an 0-3 team, just like Josh's team looks like it probably shouldn't be 3-0. And Josh and I had this
but
conversation.
But that's the thing, though. It's a weekly game, and if you happen to have the team that just squeaks out a win, you're still winning.
Right.
I mean, you're still getting that win, and you're getting towards the playoffs.
Right. And after this week, there will be a maximum of only 2 3-0 teams because 2 of them play each other. So Jeff and Dylan play each other. We're going to call Dylan here in a minute. And
who's going to be the 4-0? That's because it would be awesome if there was only one 4-0 person.
Yeah, and it'd be crazy if Josh lost and then one of those 3-0 teams won, so there was one standing, you know. But I'm sure Josh would much rather be one of the 2. He's trying to trade. He tried to trade us Jordan Howard for David Johnson, and I was just like, no, that's a lateral move. There's
nothing really going on there.
I don't like those.
Got to sweeten the pot a little bit.
For the listener leagues, people that are listening, if you want to trade, Ricky Wilson and Josh Miller are some trade happy people, and they will be happy to accept a trade. Josh really feels like he needs a trade right now,
right?
And I thought,
hit me up, man. I'm open to some trades.
Do you have the team, the league open there?
Oh yeah.
I said I was going to mention Jeff's team because we don't talk about it too much, and it is 3-0. So let's make a rundown here of just the 3-0 teams, Josh, Jeff, and Dylan, of who they have, and we can kind of decide who we think is going to keep going.
We got AJ Green's Red Rocket.
That's Josh.
Josh Miller, Phillip Rivers, Melvin Gordon, Jordan Howard, AJ Green, Sammy Watkins, Marshawn Lynch. The Browns defense, he's taken a page out of John Marchbank's book.
He did. He picked him up because of John.
Kenny Stills, Mike Williams from LA Chargers, Jack Doyle, Lockett, TJ Yeldon, Andy Dalton, and Doug Baldwin.
I think that's a good team. I mean, Lockett's got a touchdown in each one of the games. He's got Baldwin coming back. Lynch has been doing
Melvin Gordon is quietly a great running back. I feel like nobody really talks about him in the highlights and all those things on the ESPN. It's all about Todd Gurley and what's going on with the Patriots. But
he's right there with Gurley.
Melvin Gordon's a stud.
And he picked up Phillip Rivers because Titus dropped him last week because he had a horrible matchup against the Rams, and Josh loves Rivers, so he was happy to pick him up. I don't think his team is nearly as bad as he thinks it is at all. I mean, that's a pretty good team. What about Jeff's? This is Jeff Fiddler. He's the commissioner in the other league that we do the Russian roulette.
He's got Aaron Rodgers, Todd Gurley, Lamar Miller, Keenan Allen, T.Y. Hilton, Kyle Rudolph, Will Fuller, Seahawks defense, which that's trash, Marvin Jones Jr., Marlon Mack, Carson, or is that Chris Carson?
Chris Carson,
Patrick Mahomes, Jets D, and C. Godwin.
Chris Godwin.
A lot of Chris's on that.
There's also a lot of Chris. He's been blowing up too. Well, he's got Mahomes, and he's been trying to trade Mahomes to me and Jackson, but I mean, in a 10-team league, we told him, that it's just, I mean, even though Mahomes has been lighting it up and he's thinking, oh, don't you want to have that stack with Tyreek Hill? And it's like, yeah, but there's guys you could pick up that could just go off. And we picked up Matt Ryan last week, and he got 50 points.
Jesus.
So that kind of proved our point why we didn't trade for Mahomes. Not saying he's not good, but Jeff has a really, really good team there, man. I mean, that's.
Do you think? I think Will Fuller. Do you think he's going to continue the production? I think he's going to score.
Well, yeah, and he's scored in every game he's played with Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
If Deshaun Watson's out, are we dropping Will Fuller right away?
Oh yeah. But he's a big Notre Dame fan too, so
I am
so
too.
Jeff will have Will Fuller on all his teams because he's
They're doing pretty well this year too. over there,
Dude, in
USC.
6, so I did more. So in 6 career games with Watson now, Fuller's now 26 for 493 yards and 9 touchdowns. Like, he just keeps adding to it.
Unstoppable.
1.5 touchdowns.
And if
per
you
game.
think it's going to stop versus the Colts defense, it's not.
Well, and you saw all my Twitters last week. I was like, guys, this Will Fuller is unsustainable. Is a freezing cold take. You got to let go of that take. Like,
And it's not like the sample size is 2-3 games. It's now 6.
It keeps growing, and he loves that guy. Okay, so the last 3-0 team is Dylan, who we're getting ready to call right now. Let's talk about that. Actually, let's wait and talk about Dylan's team.
Yeah, I'll
after
have
we
his
call
team.
him.
I'll have his team pulled up while we call him.
So we're going to call him right now.
On the phone with us is Dylan Bolden, and he is a owner of a 3-0 fantasy football team in the Listener League. How you doing today, man?
I'm feeling pretty great. I can't complain about 3-0.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of bullshit because I was thinking I was going to be the star in the league this year, and it's just not happening. It's not going the way I want it to.
I mean, it's a long season, and I think it kind of fringed on me having Drew Brees and him rushing in those touchdowns, and Kamara getting stopped for 1 twice.
Well, how about that? I mean, that guy's an old man, and he's going in there and he's scoring points and running in. It's like he had 2 rushing touchdowns. It's kind of bullshit in my opinion, but whatever.
Being a bunch of indie boys, he made me proud. So.
Yeah, so Paulie was wanting to ask you about a few things in relation to being from Indy. So go ahead, man.
So you lived in Indy for 20 plus years?
Yeah, man. I was born just north of Cincinnati, so I'm a diehard Bengals fan, which is kind of a burden at times. But my family we ended up moving to Zionsville back in the early 90s, and I grew up there. Went to high school there. Went to Ball State. Graduated from there. Chirp chirp. And
hell yeah!
I was there.
Hey, me too, man. Chirp. Go Cardinals. I'm a Ball State boy too, man. That's awesome.
I didn't actually finish school there, but I also attended.
Hey, man. I mean, a lot of people don't make it out of Muncie alive, and I got lucky and did it.
Dude, I was there for about 9 years. So
How do you know? And then I was going to ask you, how do you know Shane?
So, Shane, funny story. So, I met my girlfriend at Ball State. We actually both worked at Red Lobster. And she was best friends and roommates with Shane's fiance, Nicole.
baby mama, yeah.
Yeah, and
Sorry, dude. There's an Amber Alert going
There's an
on.
Amber Alert.
like blind boyfriend dates where you're like, oh, yeah, you got to be my friend. He's going to bring his guy along. And you're like, oh, crap. Like, I hope this guy's cool. And Shane and I hit it off right away. They found out they were pregnant with June, I think, around then. And he invited me to his diaper party. And me and him just got trashed all night and, like, forged this bond that is, like, inseparable from, Jack Daniels. And we became close friends. And, we've always stayed in touch. And all 4 of us get to hang out. So it's always a good time.
So Shane, for the Paulie Sleepers listeners that don't know Juice in the Morning, Shane is Juice's co-host for his other podcast. So you said just in one of the DMs we were talking on Twitter, you were like, "Yeah, I know Shane too," and I was like, "Really? That's kind of crazy." So how did your name get into the hat for Paulie Sleepers? Did you find out about us through Juice or through me on Twitter or?
I listened to Juice and the AM, so I, through being friends with Shane, I always like to keep tabs, and you guys put on a great.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, man, because it doesn't feel like it sometimes.
Hey, you guys do a good job, and I was just listening, and I'm a diehard fantasy football guy, and I've been playing for, I think I'm closing in on 15 years now.
Wow!
And I saw, you guys are setting up a listeners league, and it's like that'd be awesome to be in. and just shot my email out there, and luckily got drawn. And I was so hyped when I heard my name.
So Justin's going to go over your team really quick. So what's his team looking like, Juice?
All right, so you got Drew Brees. We talked about that a little bit. You got Ezekiel Elliott, James Conner, Mike Evans, Emmanuel Sanders, Trey Burton, Tyler Boyd, Chargers D, Christian McCaffrey, Chris Hogan, Chris Thompson, Matt Breida, Njoku, Keelan Cole, and then you got Le'Veon Bell just chilling on your IR. We were just talking about IR.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
pretty stacked team. Pretty stacked.
I'm just gonna go out on a limb right now. I mean, this is the team to beat, guys.
Right now,
this is the team to beat.
I'm coming for you.
I didn't hear one weakness in that team.
No,
like no weakness.
There's
whatsoever.
no weakness in that squad whatsoever. Good job, man. You drafted a hell of a squad. And I asked you to kind of look in and see, like, okay, what other team, out there in our league would you be most concerned about? What team do you look at and you go, holy shit, that's a pretty good team too?
I'm facing one of them this week in AJ Green's Red Rocket. I think I'm gonna put him in his place. He's averaging only like 118 points, so I'm not too worried about that guy. But the other 3-0 team, Jeff Fiddler, I think he's got a solid squad with that Rodgers and Mahomes stack he's got. I mean, he's got to get rid of one of those guys and add some depth at a position. But I mean, he's got Gurley. He's got T.Y., who I think is going to have a great rest of the season. T.Y. is getting 33 targets, a crazy 25% target share, but he's only got 17 catches. I think he's going to improve on that. And then I think he's got Keenan Allen too, Lamar Miller. So he's got a pretty balanced wide receiver running back core. It's just when you got Rodgers and Mahomes and 10-team league, you got to get rid of one of them.
He's trying to trade Mahomes to us because we have Hill, and we were just talking about that actually before we called you. It's just, to me, it's hard to find value for a quarterback in a 10-team league. There's always 2 or 3 guys, and that's what I was talking about. We picked up Matt Ryan. He got 50 points. So,
right.
I mean, Mahomes is awesome, but and I got it wrong. You're playing Josh this week, and Jeff is the other 3-0 team that's playing somebody else. So I thought you were playing Jeff, but you're playing Josh. So we've got the battle of the 3-0s, and so you're not worried about Josh, huh? You're like, I got this covered.
He's got a good squad, but I think he's got wide receiver depth. He's got OBJ and Diggs and Juju, which you can't go wrong with those 3. I think he's got Fournette and Wentz, which Fournette's been injured 2 out of 3 weeks, and Wentz still hasn't got his feet back. So I think he's shaky, but he has no, that's Jersey Shore. Sorry, AJ Green. He's got AJ Green and Andy Dalton, which I think is a heck of a stack this week if AJ's healthy. So I was trying to be sneaky and ran out there and got Boyd as quick as possible because I love the Bengals against the Falcons this week. I think it's going to be a great matchup.
I think Boyd is the pickup of the week. And my pickup of the week, the first 3 weeks were all running backs, and this week I think it's Tyler Boyd all the way. He's seeing so much of the field, 80 to 90% of the snaps. I think he is going to eat whether A.J. Green is healthy or not.
Right, yeah. And he's kind of Andy Dalton's go watching the games. Like, if Andy gets flushed out of the pocket, he's always looking for Boyd jetting across the field.
Dude, just listening to all of the takes and the ideas that you have and just like the research you've done on other teams, I might be screwed in this league.
You might be in a little bit more than
I might be in over my head in this league, guys.
I'm in 3 other leagues. I got a college buddy league, and then a pretty serious one I've been in for 12 years where we do a cool concept of we do a $100 buy-in every year, and half of that money goes to pay out the winners, but the other half we actually take and we put into a rolling pot. And so in order to get that rolling pot, you have to win back-to-back years.
Oh,
and
wow.
No one's done it for 8 years, and I actually take that money. So my background at Ball State was finance, and I actually invest that money. So we've got upwards of like $5,000 right now that if somebody wins back to take home.
Goddamn, you want to win that one, don't you?
I've heard of a league like that. They call it a vampire league, and as soon as someone does win it back-to-back and gets the other half of the pot, the league is done.
And that's what like everybody says because we want to transition to a dynasty because we've done it for so long, and it's a keeper league right now. But everybody who says if they win it back to back, they're just going to like fly us all out to Vegas and we'll have like a draft party there. But if you have $5,000 in your bank account, you just won, you're going to question that a little bit.
That's the financial background in your mind, because if I did win that back to back, I would be flying people out for sure. I would just like say, forget the money, forget it. We're going to go do this big.
Exactly. It's all about having fun.
So tell us about your clothing company, and you've been nice enough to donate, and Wilson did it too. So Wilson has this box set of music he's donating, and you said you would donate some clothes depending on the size of the winner. Now I'm letting you know if I'm a XXX. But tell me about your clothing company and how you guys are gonna get us some swag for the winner.
Right. So I moved up from Indiana up here to Minnesota last fall, and my brother, who's about 10 years older than me, lives up here, and we never really kind of lived in the same place at the same time because he was going to college and I was still like a teenager. So I wanted to make the effort, and they're working on their first kid, so I wanted to be here. But he started this clothing company about 1.5 years ago, and it's called St. Minneapolis. And if you've never been up here, we have the Twin Cities, St. Paul and Minneapolis, and there's a lot of like uncovered, city life here that not a lot of people know about. It's really big, woodsy outdoors. There's 10,000 lakes. Everybody knows that about Minnesota. But we have a really good, street culture. We have a really good music scene. I mean, Prince is from here. Bob Dylan's from here. We have some great venues.
There's a comedy culture up there as well, isn't there?
We have some great stand-up. Unfortunately, one that's like 2 miles down the road for me just shut down, but they're redoing the complex, and I hope they build it up. It's called Joke Joint. But we have a really great comedy scene, so there's a lot of like artistic, musical like scenes up here that not a lot of.
I think
so go ahead.
We were losing you there for a second.
We
Sorry.
lost your feed just a tad.
No, you're fine. So we're a streetwear clothing line, but we work with a lot of local artists who work in any medium. So we have some cartoonists we work with. We have some people who work with like oil paints. And what we try to do is we do our own designs first and foremost to kind of show off the city, but we also work with local artists who will create pieces. And, art, it can be, a couple $100s to sell one piece, and it takes a lot of time and work. But some of these pieces we'll actually digitize that artwork, and then we'll put it on our clothing, and we'll have them design stuff for us. And it'll be all about the city life up here in the Twin Cities, and we'll kind of display it. We give them a kickback, and we generate some cool creative pieces.
That's awesome. Do you guys have a website or anything that you can send people to that like maybe want to check it out?
For sure. We're at stminneapolis.com. We sell primarily online, and we're at some retail stores up here. And then you can check us out. We're really big on Instagram, too, at St. Minneapolis. And then we're also on Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, you definitely have to have a big social media footprint in today's world. It's crazy.
For sure. And luckily, I've got kind of a business background, and my other partner is my brother's wife. She's been in marketing for about 15 years. So she's done a really great job of branding us and, making sure we have that social media footprint out there.
Well, it's just really nice of you to offer up to donate some clothing to the winner. I mean, we were not expecting any of the people in the league to donate things to the winner for the league. So that is just that's really huge. We love that, and we'll help you out and promote your clothes as much as possible, and really appreciate that. So getting back to the league, is there anything else that you had in your notes that you wanted to discuss?
Not really. I think we're all looking good. I think you guys pointed out earlier, it's crazy that we have 3 3-0 teams, and then everybody else is 1-2. It's so top heavy right now that that'll balance out real quick.
It's got to balance out. That's what I'm hoping for. But that's my gambler's mentality that ends up screwing me over a lot.
No, I'm there with you, but I don't know. I think, Paulie, looking at your team, too, you're going to be pretty dangerous. Juice, I think you got a pretty good squad, too. So, I mean, 6 teams will make it to the playoffs, and usually that means getting at least 6 to 7 plus wins. So that's usually my target going into the beginning of the season is like, all right. But, like, right now, I'm thinking about getting that bye. But, like you said, you got to play 1 week at time and just keep moving forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 2 teams get a bye week, and that bye week is crucial.
Yep.
So, if you get that, that's a big feather in your cap.
Hey, thanks for joining us, man. Definitely want to talk to you more and even have you on the Juice in the Morning podcast, because I didn't know it was you had as interesting background as you do until Paulie and I talked about it before we got you on the phone.
Right, yeah. And one other crazy thing, too, early on, when Shane actually joined you, he actually sent me over your guys' logo, and I updated it with his name on there.
Oh, so you're the one who did that.
That's me, and I actually I bought those shirts from our distributor and gave them to him for him to make the T-shirts.
That's so awesome.
We use that logo on our Twitter handle and on my YouTube and on Facebook. It's a mashup of Paulies Sleepers and Juice in the Morning, so that's looking pretty good,
appreciate
man.
it so much,
very
man.
much so.
No, you guys did the hard work, and I mean, both of you guys do a great job. Paulie, I love following you on Twitter. Juice, you guys do a great job on the podcast. So, I mean, keep up the good work, and this league's going to be a great one. So, I'm going to be curious how it finishes.
Well,
yeah, appreciate it. We'll see you in the playoffs.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And remember, if you win it, you get an automatic bid in next year's league.
Hey, that's my goal.
Yeah, have a good one, man. Thank you for calling in.
All right, take care, guys.
Later.
So before we move on, there's one more thing I want to talk to you about in the listener league. It's a certain water bet that you made with Josh Miller in week 2.
See, I'm fuzzy on the details. I need to get the details because I don't really, I don't really know.
Let's refresh your memory. So I love that Juice just made this bet without even knowing what the hell it was. But we're texting in our Twitter, in our text feed, and Josh says, do you want a water bet on this game? And Juice says, sure, yeah, man, I'll do that. And then
because I'm always like not worried about taking a bet.
We
like, I'm like, okay, let's do it.
We text like 6 or 7 more messages, and then Juice says, what's a water bet? So it's from the Fantasy Footballers, and what you do is when you make a water bet, the loser gets a cup of water dumped on them in a certain fashion, and they have an app, which we will have when Josh sees.
We're doing it October 21st.
We're going to do it.
I think that we should. We should do it right at the beginning, because then I have time to dry out.
So we're going to do it at the podcast that we're going to do before the Bills game. We're going to do a live podcast before the Colts. I'm glad you brought that up, because we're going to do a live podcast before the Colts-Bills game, and it's going to be just an extra special because we will have already done our kind of official football one for that week. It's
going to be all nonsense. So if you're looking for football advice, don't listen to that one.
Juice is getting wet, and there's a wheel of water bet that you spin, and then that's the fashion in which you get wet. So there's one that's a pocket where it's dumped in your pocket. There's one that's called Danielson, where you do the Karate Kid pose, and on that one you have an opportunity to kick the water away from you.
This is going on Instagram.
There's one that it's poured right over your head. There's one where you get down on the ground and you have to like swim. It's called the
Michael Phelps.
It's called the English Channel, and they splash you. So Josh is really looking forward to getting you wet, and he did beat you in week 2.
He did.
I wanted to bring that up.
Well, the bet was that who would score more points. Didn't I say that somebody would score more points than another player? I thought that's what it was.
I'm pretty sure you guys played each other and he beat you.
I thought it was a bet on the player, though, and I still lost. Like, I'm not saying I didn't lose, but I'm just saying that I think it was a bet on a specific player that, I was all in on the guy, and then he shit the bed. So
I assume that it was on your guys' game.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll look back through, because once again, you guys text so much that I don't even know what's going on sometimes.
And that's not even the league that we text a bunch in. The other league we text more. So that's it. We did a deep dive for the listener league this week because we had kind of been, not really covering it too much the first few weeks.
And I need you over there, Jackson, to redeem yourself this week in the DraftKings.
Yeah, that ain't no kidding.
So you gonna make us some money this week?
Who we would have? Okay, first of all, I want to start with this. So trust your research, trust your process. Do not trust like an instinct you have that comes to your freaking mind 30 minutes before a lock, and you change over everything, because that's what I did. And going from Mahomes to Bortles was the biggest mistake that I made Probably about $100 swing. So I mean,
You went all Bortles on
He
you.
called me and he said, I'm Bortles. And I was like, dude, it's no. And I did a Bortles stack like in our tournaments, but he was talking about switching our cash lineups all from Mahomes to Bortles. And I was like, no, man, like it's too late for that. When you switch something late in fantasy, like that last switch in fantasy football, that's an hour before, whether it's your DraftKings core player or whether it's your flex player or who you're playing on defense, that guy that you want to put in an hour before the game, don't ever, ever, ever do it unless you have information like someone's hurt.
Well, didn't they covered that in the TV show The League? And it was like the guy that tinkered while he was pooping every morning before the game started.
That last change is bad. So go ahead, Jackson.
No, I want to hear what you got.
Yeah, I mean it was ugly, but you know what? It's a new week. We got fresh beginnings, and we're gonna go win some money this week. So we're on week 4. So I mean the quarterback I'm looking at this week is Andy Dalton. He's 5,400, really too cheap, I think, for the matchup. The Falcons ranked 26 in DVOA versus the pass. He has yet to throw for under 240 yards and a touchdown this year. Falcons D has now lost Keanu Neal, Deion Jones, and Ricardo Allen to season-ending injuries. I mean, that's a complete big blow to their back end of their defense.
That's their core.
And then also in their past 2 home games, the Falcons D has allowed 709 yards and 6 touchdowns.
That game will shoot out. Does
that? I'm always that conspiracy theorist, though. Like, do you think this is the fall for Andy Dalton? Like, do you think it's going to happen right here for some weird reason? Because the fantasy football gods and NFL has been doing this to me all year. When I feel like something's a lock, it just doesn't go the way I want it to.
I mean, there's always a chance. I believe that, but I mean, when you have everything playing out to where Atlanta's gonna score, but they can't stop people from scoring. There's no Joe Mixon, so you don't have Gio's good, but he's not like the true 3-down back
to run a game out and run the clock out. Right.
So I mean, everything the picture is painting itself to play Dalton at that cheap price, which allows you to go get other players that are higher price. So it's like, I mean, kind of similar to like the Mahomes to the Bortles last week. It was a $1,500 swing, which allowed me to go up and get Gurley. But it was like, okay, like you take the safety of like, do this guy can go off, like, or the risk of which Bortles was. He got me 9 points. Like,
I love the play because Andy Dalton is so unsexy and no one's going to want to click on his name. But if you just look what he's done the first 3 weeks in Atlanta's horrible defense, that game will shoot out.
Except for those damn Homer fans. I feel like those are the people that win the DraftKings quite a bit, where they have like a team full of the guys that they like, which is like, say somebody that's a Saints fan, when the Saints had Michael Thomas, Kamara, and Drew Brees, they had all 3 of those guys on their team. Can you not start people too? Because I saw a guy that I think won in one of the tournaments that you guys had the juice of the morning in, and I think the guy didn't even have a defense. He won the whole thing, but he didn't draft the defense.
No, you have to field a player, but every once in a while you'll see somebody that's not playing in a very low, and it's not defense. It'll be like a wide receiver that's $2,000 that's not going to play, and they've done that so they could stack the rest of their team. But I don't see that very often.
I could have sworn that I saw where there was like not a player selected.
No, you can't do that. You have to field a team.
There was something on FanDuel a couple of years ago. I play both sites, but like there was one. It was Johnny Holton from the Raiders, and they priced him at $500. The minimum is $4,500. So it's like that's a $4,000 swing right there. So it's like, do you take almost that free square, knowing you're going to get a 0 to go pay up for? But I mean, it didn't pay off in the end. Like it wasn't the winning lineup.
I was just curious because I feel like I saw that.
You have to field a team.
Maybe something was weird.
Yeah, so moving on to running back, my favorite play of the week, actually, in all positions, is probably Ezekiel Elliott at 7,700. The Lions ranked 29th in DVOA versus the run and 15th versus the pass-catching running back. Zeke has yet to score under 17.6 DraftKings points, and if the Cowboys are going to win this game, it's going to be because of Zeke. There's no, like, Dak can't throw he has no one to throw the ball to. The receiving options suck. I mean, if they're going to win, it's going to be because of Zeke.
He doesn't throw touchdowns anymore. Like his last 7 games are around 200 yards with no touchdowns.
And Dak does not look good.
No.
The whole team doesn't look good.
Dak is
Zeke.
not back.
No. I mean, they need to do something. And I think that's a great core play because Zeke, they're at home, right?
Yeah, they're at home. In the past 3 games, in 3 games so far, Detroit is allowing an average of 149.3 yards per game on the ground. I mean, last week they allowed Matt Breida to go for 11, 138 and 1, Alfred Morris to go for 14 and 48 and 0. So I mean, they're susceptible to the run. So,
and the other thing I saw today was Zeke is the one of 2 running backs in the league to get 80% or more of the backfield touches. That's it. So if you want a core DraftKings play, he really should be priced at like $8,800, and he's $7,700. So
he's way cheaper than Kamara. He's still cheaper than Barkley. He's cheaper than Gordon. So it's like,
do those lines ever change, like betting lines?
No, they're locked Sunday night.
Well, I was waiting. Like, I mean,
like the prices never change.
Prices.
Just the betting lines change obviously with injuries.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, does the price for the player change? Like, when do they lock that in the week? Like,
Sunday night.
Yeah.
So Sunday night for the next week.
Yeah.
They already updated.
Yeah, that's why, like, if a player really balls out and emerges on a Monday, we always take advantage of that, like, discounted pricing. Because, like, Jared Cook was priced
monstrous.
Yeah, it was monstrous and still priced at like $3,500 the next week.
So that's what's cool, because that means that like probably a lot of serial gamblers are like, dude, I'm going to go all in on DraftKings because they're not going to screw me by changing the line right before the game starts.
Right.
And like even like Calvin Ridley had that 3 touchdown game last week, and he was 3,700. He's now up to 4,900. So it's like they inflate it to where like you can't just leave the guy there, but you have to do what is acceptable to the right decision.
They adjust pricing to the matchup and to like how they've done previously. So Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd just went way up, but not that much really. They're still
not enough.
I mean,
probably.
Boyd's still too cheap. And honestly, I think for what Ridley's role is, I mean, Sanu did have a cheap touchdown, but I mean, he's the clear number 2 behind Julio. Julio scores a touchdown.
Who's your core wide receiver this week?
Yeah,
Jax?
the one wide receiver we are not going to budge on. He's going to be in every one of our lineups. It's going to be Sterling Shepard. The Saints ranked 32nd in DVOA versus the wide receiver 2. With Ingram out, Shepard he's a must play at 4,900. Shepard runs 81% of his routes in the slot where New Orleans gets obliterated. They've allowed Tyler Boyd to go for 6 for 132 and 1. Deshaun Jackson go for 5, 146 and 2. And then Jarvis Landry for 5, 69 and 0. I mean, Shepard will be going up against P.J. Williams most of the day. Williams has a Pro Football Focus defensive grade of 25.7. The highest grade on there is 91. Target him.
There's only like 5 slot corners that are graded worse than him amongst like 100 grades. So he has like the 95th grade out of 100. So Sterling Shepard is a smash play this week. By the way, before we forget, Jackson has put up the article on our website. So if you go to polysleepers.com, you can do a read on what players we like and why. And then maybe if we change our mind, you just kind of do what we told you to do in the first place, and you don't change like we did, because
and send the article to me too, the link, because we'll put it up on the Juice in the Morning Facebook and Twitter.
Sure. So if you would have just stuck with that lineup last week, it would have definitely smashed. We changed it at the last minute, but that's spilled milk.
I mean,
it happens.
It happens. I mean, it gets to the. I wouldn't consider myself a pro, but I'm not really a novice amateur player. But it's just, it was a 14-point swing, and that 14-point swing was
made
about
all the difference.
$100 to $200
right
difference. So
who do you like at tight end this week?
My favorite tight end of the week is Rob Gronkowski at 7,000. You would think, okay, so the Dolphins ranked 12th in DVOA versus a tight end, but Gronk's coming off 2 of his worst games of his career, 4 for 51 and then 2 for 15. Like, the dude is going to smash. New England's coming off a freaking road loss where they look completely like trash. So I think it's just the clear-cut Gronk spot.
They're gonna right the ship.
So in 5 career games versus Miami, Gronk has caught 20 receptions on 43 targets for 349 yards and 5 touchdowns.
He loves Miami.
Yeah. Literally and figuratively.
Welcome to Miami. I love the play because Gronk, I can't remember the last time he ever had 3 bad games. Also, if they get beat on the road, they'll come back and they'll feed Gronk coming back at home. This is at home, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then if Josh Gordon gets out there and some of that coverage comes away from Gronk, I've already talked about that. I think that's going to help him out,
but
too.
That's the type of game they want to go home and just put it down the Dolphins' throat.
So, Jax, this is what we need to do. What's our defense? Because I had a good defense week 1, and we kind of halfway faded it. You had a good defense week 2. Last week, neither one of us really did. I have a feeling that our smash week is going to be on a week that we have the right defense. Who do you got?
I think so. For my defense of the week, you could go low, but I don't see that paying off for you this week. So we're going to be going with the Jaguars at 4,100, going against the Jets and Sam Darnold. Yeah, they have looked decent. I mean, they did play the Browns last week, and it was kind of an all right game, but that was a complete pace-up game. Like, Crowell got those 2 early touchdowns, then they kind of just rolled off the clock until they lost. But Saxonville is pissed off. They're going to come back and get a revenge win at home versus the Jets. So, I mean, it has the lowest implied game total at 38.5 points. So, I mean, not a lot of points are going to be scored. So, I mean, look for the defense to feast.
I like the home. I think we need to stick with the home plays for sure, and I'm good with that. And there's, what I talk about, like with our kind of strategy is you're treading water. You're maybe win a few bucks, lose a few bucks, and we did have some tournament lineups last week.
We won some money.
We did have some tournament lineups last week that were really good again, and again, people posting lineups on paid sites that weren't like, I had one that was 175, one that was 171, and I saw people like paying for 160 point lineups. So again, we do know what we're doing, guys.
Yeah, I had one lineup last week where I constructed it around Matt Ryan, and then the whole like New Orleans and Atlanta stack, and I put up 192.
Yeah, he had a monster one last week that we didn't play for you because we were just kind of, because I don't play all the ones for you either. Right. But what we do is, and then one week it'll just smash, and that week you win $400, and that pays for your year. So that one's coming up.
Oh, it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Some of the tournament stacks that I like this week is building a team around Andy Dalton, Gio Bernard, and Tyler Boyd, maybe even throwing Eifert in there, especially if AJ sits. If AJ sits, I'll play Eifert. I like building with Matt Ryan and Julio. I think it's a Julio this week.
100%.
I don't think anybody will play Julio. And the week last year that we smashed, that big week, the big $1,000, everybody was hitting for thousands, that was the week that Julio went off. And he's rarely quiet for this long, and you know he's going to be shitty about it. So I'm liking that stack. And also what happens is, the longer he goes without a touchdown game or big game, his price starts kind of coming down.
Yeah.
And that's what we hit last year, too. We hit Julio on like a $7,800 week. I think this week he's 82, which is pretty cheap for Julio. Usually he's in the 88 to 92 range. We're also going to stack up Deshaun Watson with Will Fuller and come back with T.Y. Hilton. I think that game could definitely shoot. And then crazy stack here, but with playing New Orleans and how bad they've been, I really badly want to do an Eli with Barkley and Sterling Shepard stack.
Just wait for the hot take. Just wait.
Yeah, so
it's coming.
But the biggest thing to kind of like follow up Paul's point, if you're going to stack kind of like how I did, I stacked 3 guys from the same team, but I came back with 2 other guys from the opposite team. So it's like you need that
game to blow up.
Yeah, if that game blows up,
and that's the only reason I got those points.
Those kind of stacks work. So
that's where you see the people winning, like the big tournaments.
Yeah. Like the guy that won the Millionaire the week 1, he had complete Tampa and New Orleans.
Yep.
That's all he had. All the Tampa wide receivers and coming back with Michael Thomas and Kamara, and he won $1 million. So
bastard.
And the millionaire lineup this week is only $10 to enter instead of $20. So
damn it, Juice! We had money in our account.
Might as well throw it down. It's all right.
So guys, follow me on Twitter.
We've got a little bit left. I can throw down 10. I don't care.
Follow me on Twitter, and we will keep talking about DraftKings throughout the week, and then we'll update the website and kind of finalize it, and then we post on Twitter when our lineups and guys are finalized, and that's usually probably Saturday afternoon, Saturday night.
Right. So what do we want to win, guys?
Money.
What? It's not working. Whatever. Anyways, we're moving on.
Those drops, you can only play them once. They're one drop a day.
No, there's no way. Anyways,
I see it's grayed out. It won't even let you click on it. It's weird. It's like, damn it, you already used me as a drop.
But what else you got going on over there? Is that the end of it?
Yeah, that's all we got. So just focus on those plays we talked about. Go over to pauliesleepers.com. Look at the article, week 4,
and
DFS.
I'll post the article as well too.
Yeah.
We also have John going into some duds that can bounce back, and maybe some studs that might go down a little bit.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy?
I don't want no scrub. Scrub is a guy that can't get no love from me.
Everything died in the house. I got scared. I dropped my hot pocket.
I dropped my hot pocket.
All right. Well, I'm going to start out with a couple of people who had really good games last week that I think may regress a little bit. I don't think you should keep your expectations as high. Jordy Nelson went off.
And that's your team.
Yeah,
So
that's my team.
You're shying away from it?
They haven't. I don't think they've completely put their entire offense together. It seems like they're going to one weapon each week. First week is Jared Cook. Second week is Mark Cooper. This last week it was Jordy Nelson. And I don't think they've figured out how to use everybody at the same time.
That's a good point. Yeah, they've been focusing on one person.
Yeah. So
it seems to me like if Amari doesn't get going early, then it's not going to be Amari time. I mean, you're a Raiders fan, so you would know more than me.
Yeah. They have to get him going early. They have to get him the ball, and he can't make any mistakes. As soon as he makes a mistake, it ruins his
spirals out of control.
Yeah. So I don't think Jordy Nelson is gonna blow up again this week. If you played him last week, you were able to reap the benefits of that 26 points in PPR league. So that was really unexpected since he was projected as 8. So Robert Woods, he's got a good matchup this week against the Vikings, but they're playing on Thursday night, which
I hate Thursday games.
I don't
hate
like
them.
Playing Thursday players. He's got the right cornerback that he's going to match up with, but that defense they're probably pissed off about losing to the Bills, who were a joke all year so far, and so I don't like Robert Woods as a 2-touchdown guy again this week. I feel like David Johnson is going to trend up a little bit with rookie quarterback Josh Rosen starting.
Please, I hope that's true.
Yeah, he was praised coming out of college for being able to get through his progressions. So if he's got people covered, he's going to be able to get to that progression with David Johnson. And, they have plays in effect to get David Johnson the ball, too. So.
And David Johnson, man, that's another one that I think if he's healthy, he's coming back. He's not going to just always be just mediocre.
No. And the rookie, I think, can only increase his value. Right. I'm totally down with that.
And the Cardinals are just, they have just not looked good.
No, and I think, once again, another rookie quarterback is taking over. I think it's going to kind of give them new life as they move forward, just being able to change and focus on this new rookie who has a lot of talent. I'm surprised he was drafted behind some of the quarterbacks he was, but so I like David Johnson trending up. Now here's one where I am going to be going against what you guys think for this week. I don't think that Gronk has a good matchup this week.
John did bring that up yesterday.
Minka Fitzpatrick, he is a prototype safety that is being drafted in the league right now to take on Gronk types and Travis Kelce types. Like this is specifically the reason why Miami drafted this guy, is to cover Gronk,
because they're tired of getting their ass beat by him.
Yes, he's 6'1". He runs a 4.40. So even if Gronk gets some separation, he's going to close on it. He's got long arms. He's got great ball skills. He had so many interceptions and interception return for touchdowns in college at Alabama that it was crazy. Besides that, he can sack the quarterback. So if he's lining up against Gronk in the slot, they could bring him in on Tom Brady too. So I don't think it's a great matchup. And like Jackson said earlier, they are 12th DVOA against tight ends. So it's not matching up great for me, but you guys seem to think otherwise, so we'll see how that plays out. We'll talk about it next podcast.
We can always disagree, and then celebrate our wins and nurse our losses afterwards.
Right. No, it would really suck if we all agreed with each other all the time.
Right, exactly.
I mean, the biggest thing with like Gronk to Fitzpatrick, I wrote it down who he's going up against, but it's like Gronk has 65 pounds on him, and he has 5 inches. I mean, you can't really you can't teach measurables. Yeah, you can teach how you play, you can teach how you cover, but it's like you can't teach overall talent. And Gronk is arguably the best tight end this whole generation.
Going along with that, though, in the tight end safety matchup that Pro Football Focus has, they only gave Rob Gronkowski a 4% advantage.
That's not high.
It's not high at all. 0% means that there's no advantage whatsoever, so he's just barely got an advantage on him.
Right, like you would expect Gronk to have like a 28-30%. So yeah. I'm feeling you, man. I mean, that's definitely a good reason to go against what we're saying. So we'll see next week. We'll have plenty to talk about.
Absolutely, for sure.
You had a great take last week. Adrian Peterson had a bad week, and you said I see him bouncing back. And Washington played. The Colts shut them down at home, and then Washington played Green Bay, and he feasted. And then Green Bay plays Buffalo this week. So I would say that LaShawn McCoy can definitely get in there because Adrian Peterson got back against them, and they just lost Muhammad Wilkerson, who's their big defensive tackle that stuffs the run. So I just wanted to throw that out there that you had a great call on the bounce back, and I'm going to feed off of that and say that if Adrian Peterson bounced back and Mo was in the game, that LaShawn McCoy could definitely bounce back this week with Mo out of the game.
So John, you had good call for the Browns D, and you had a good call for Adrian Peterson. Did you have a bad call?
I called Gio as well.
Okay.
But
no, don't be so humble about it.
No, he did. He called Gio as well. He also called that we should temper our expectations for Corey Clement because of Wendell Smallwood. Now, Clement was a good pickup because if you want to spot start a guy and you get a 10-point play out of a flex player, then that's a good play. So I'm not accepting defeat on that call, but he was all over it, and I think he might have even reached out on Twitter and was like, "Hey, Smallwood, what do you think?" And I was like, yeah, because Smallwood had a great game. He was definitely a production limiter for Clement. And all the talk last week about Clement and Latavius Murray, the pickup was Gio Bernard, and that was John's call. So that's why John's here, man. He might have leveled up past us in this fantasy football talk. Anybody else you got there, John?
That's all I got for this week. So
all right,
move on to the next segment.
I appreciate it. So we're moving on to the waiver ads and drops. I've got don't have anything for that. So we're just going to move on to the waiver ads and drops and the bye weeks with Paulie.
I don't have a drop for this.
I don't have a drop for that's going to be the drop.
Hey,
that's going to be the next drop. I don't have a drop for this. Speaking
of, we'll start off with some players that you should just let go of. Rashad Penny.
Drop him.
Chris Carson got 32 carries last week. I'm telling you, I've been telling people since July and August that this guy is not all what he's cracked up to be. And it's just crazy that they drafted him in the first round and they're not even going to use him. Ronald Jones has not been active for the last 3 games. So, I mean, this guy is not playing football, guys. He's keeping the Gatorade cold. Drop his ass. He's
a water boy.
Yeah. Just some really disappointing rookies here. Nick Chubb. Actually, somebody played Nick Chubb against me last week. I'm not going to name any names, but he got a big fat goose egg. You could drop him. Jesse James is droppable. We talked about that because of Vance McDonald. He's going to be the one they want to go to. I'm not saying he won't have good games, but it's going to be you're going to play him. He's going to get you 5, and then you'll bench him, and then he'll get you 15. It's going to be frustration. Get him out of there. Devontae Parker, I don't care if he's coming back from his broken figure. He's droppable. I think Marcus Mariota is droppable. I think Jameis Winston is droppable. I don't think he's going to see the field until maybe week 6, and he's going to be on a very short leash. Dez Bryant, guys, come on. I know Jeff Fiddler has him in the listener league.
Is he going to be on a team?
No. I mean, this week the Patriots are working out Jeremy Curley. Okay? So if Dez had any value, he would be working out for the Patriots this week.
So what happened?
Is
he worthless?
He has value. It's just his price, I guess, is too damn high.
I don't know.
He's not willing to sell low.
To me, it's more than that. To me, he got old fast, and the league figured him out fast. He only really ran 2 or 3 routes, which is really ridiculous for a wide receiver. People want more versatility than that, and I think it's a combination of all those things. I think it's a combination of he's a very niche player, so you're going to have to need that exact thing, and he's wanting a lot of money too. So if you're rostering him, hoping and praying he's going to come back,
drop him.
You know what else sucks about Dez
him.
Bryant? When you have a jersey in your closet that you can't wear anymore.
See,
that shit sucks.
I'm so glad that you're the kind of person that wouldn't wear them because they're not playing. Is that what it is?
I mean, yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. I'm all in on that. Yeah. Now, if they retire with the team, I'm okay with wearing that jersey
later. Yeah.
But what I hate is like the people wearing the Minnesota Brett Favre. Mm-hmm. Like, come on.
Or what gets me is like when you go to like a sporting store and that person's just been traded, or they just been they're not longer on that team, so like the price of the jersey goes down. It's on sale.
Yeah.
People just go over and scalp it. It's like, dude, like, just if you want the jersey, like, go buy the team he's on. Yeah. Like, I mean, whatever.
We have very strong jersey. I have very strong jersey thoughts. I've talked about it on the Juice in the Morning podcast.
We have a lot of friends that do too, because since we're running good on time, I have a jersey story. When Trent Richardson came to the Colts, I was very excited. I got on Facebook back then. That was the only social media I did, and I tweeted. I even say tweet. I put out some stats on him because he had 11 touchdowns the year before, and I just thought he could really revitalize the running game for us. I was so excited. Told all my friends it's going to be great, man. Went out and got his jersey, and I got like the real one, the ironed-on one.
Oh yeah.
Never wore that jersey. It's still in my closet because I can't burn it. But I never wore that jersey. He never gave me reason to. I'm glad I didn't wear it that first week, but he never did anything. So that
I'm
was
pretty sure I got a Joey Adai jersey over in my closet.
Well, Adai was a badass for us, so you can wear that one. But
Juice, if you could own one jersey, like just one jersey you want, what would it be?
I already own it.
Okay,
it's a Michael Vick Eagles jersey.
Nice.
He's one of my favorite players of all time to watch. I know he had his rough times. He went to prison, but he came back and had one of the greatest comebacks of all time against the Giants.
He did have an amazing.
I mean, it was exciting, and I owned him multiple years in fantasy football, and he screwed me a lot. But that year it was good.
So another reason why you dropped Des Bryant is because there's just a lot of wide receivers on waivers right now that you can pick up. It's a good wide receiver week. So we'll start off with wide receiver, since we were talking about dropping Des Bryant. Mike Williams is available. He's only owned in 43% of leagues. He has 3 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks.
He won me like my week 1 and 2 in one of my leagues.
And people dropped him. He wasn't drafted. People have picked him up and dropped him. I don't get it. He's going to be a great play forward, and that's
consistent.
That's a high powered offense. He's a beast. John Brown is only owned in 54% of leagues, and he has 2 touchdowns in 3 weeks, and he has double-digit points in each one of those weeks. He's the number 1 there now. I think we talked about that. Michael Crabtree.
I also heard that. He is injury prone, but he's not right. He's not even looking unhealthy right now at all.
Well, the thing is he's not injury prone. The thing is that when he gets the injury, he's going to be out twice the amount of time it would keep someone else out because he has a sickle cell trait, so it elongates his recovery. So he's not more susceptible to injury, but when he does get injured, it really, really derails him. But he's the number 1 there right now. Chris Godwin has a touchdown in every week, and he's only rostered in 41% of leagues. And I'm mentioning these guys because I told a lot of people to pick them up last week, and they're still out there. So, that's a high-powered offense. One touch. I mean, what do you want? You want a wide receiver going to get you 40 to 80 yards and a touchdown every week. So those guys are great pickups. Ridley was a huge pickup today, so he's like in 83%.
He's probably gone.
He's in 83% of leagues now. So another reason why I bring this up is if you follow me on Twitter, I always release these on Tuesday on Twitter, so you can pick up some of these guys. But actually, if you didn't get Ridley, I don't think you missed out. I think Tyler Boyd is a better pickup. I think with Ridley, you're chasing points, and he just had an amazing matchup, and he won't do that every week. But Boyd is quietly having a great season with a great catch rate. He's on the field for 80 to 90% of the snaps. And last week wasn't his first good week. He's been putting up the 770. He's been kind of putting up like Quincy Enunwa kind of PPR numbers, but then last week he really exploded. So Tyler Boyd is my pickup of the week. And I think Corey Clement was my first kind of fail, so we're going for 3 out of 4 this week for pickups of the week. It's Tyler Boyd for Cincinnati in a great matchup against Atlanta. You can go pick him up. He's available in 51% of leagues. Those are some of the wide receivers. There's also Geronimo Allison, who has 2 touchdowns in 3 weeks. He's definitely Rodgers' clear number 2 player, and he's only rostered in 37% of leagues.
Geronimo!
And then a couple deeper dives. If you're in a deep league or if you've got a big bench, I think that Antonio Callaway gets a huge bump with Baker Mayfield, and he's going to have that Josh Gordon role, and he just blew up in preseason with Baker throwing him the ball. He had a big week a couple weeks ago with Tyrod throwing him the ball for like 4 for 81 and a touchdown. He's available. If you want him,
he's available.
You can go pick him up, and I think he could be a great play. And then Christian Kirk, I think, is a great play. Last week, he had 7 catches for 80 yards. And if you think about that rookie coming in, Josh Rosen, we've talked about this narrative before. Who's he throwing to in camp? Who's he throwing to on the second team? Christian Kirk was kind of drafted to take over for Larry Fitzgerald. So I think that If those guys that all those guys that I mentioned aren't on your waivers, you could pick up Christian Kirk and Antonio Callaway.
You got a chance.
I think those guys are good for kind of a future, stash.
Yeah.
Tight ends has been woeful, but OJ Howard is available in 35% of leagues. And Jackson and I did get him in this league. Jackson wanted me to get him last week, and I didn't get him, and he was like, dude, Jordan Reed's bye week is next week. You should have got him. Luckily, he got through waivers, and I picked him up in the listener league. So he's going to start for us this week. Greg Olson, who I mentioned, is available in 40% of leagues. You can pick him up and put him on your IR. There's just not a whole lot of tight ends out there. But for this week, you've got Vance McDonald, who's available in 80% of leagues. Tyler Eifert's available in 50% of leagues. And Austin Hooper is available in 75% of leagues. Hooper and Eifert play each other, and I think that game could smash.
Yeah, big game.
So even if it says they're projected to get 4 points, I don't care. That game's going to smash, and one of those guys I think is going to have a really big week. For running backs, it's pretty woeful. Javorius Buck Allen is available in 50% of leagues. I told everybody to pick him up last week. He's the RB12 right now. He's the 12th ranked PPR running back. I know it's ugly. I know his yards aren't there, but he's getting the goal lines. Right now, you just got to get there however you can get there, and I think he's definitely worth the pickup if you're covering for like Christian McCaffrey's bye week. You don't know what to do. Austin Eckler is available in 50% of leagues as well. He had a little bit of an off week last week, but I think they could get ahead in this game against San Francisco, and what they do is they usually give Gordon the fourth quarter off, and Eckler could really, really smash. Alfred Morris might have a good game with no Matt Breida. And then, like I said before, this is a big swing play, but I like for next week, get him now, Robert Turbin.
There you go.
Quarterbacks too. Andy Dalton and Ryan Tannehill.
Both have those.
Ryan Tannehill at New England, and their games usually end up smashing. You've also got Andy Dalton at Atlanta. He's only rostered in 38% of leagues, and he's a quarterback one right now. He's the 10th ranked quarterback right now.
And there's so many quarterbacks out there. It's
listen to his schedule coming up: at Atlanta, Miami at home, Pittsburgh at home, at Kansas City, Tampa Bay at home, bye week at New Orleans.
A lot of bad defenses.
So Miami is a pretty good defense. Atlanta, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Tampa Bay, New Orleans are probably, I didn't look it up, the worst five.
Yeah.
So the Red Rifle is Red Rocket, whatever you want to call it.
Looking for a good year.
Yeah, so those are the pickups for this week, guys.
Hey, thank you for sharing the waiver ads and drops. And did you mention like bye weeks at all?
We've got Washington and the Panthers on a bye.
This is an early bye,
which is complete bullshit because I have McCaffrey and Reed on the same.
Get it out of here! Get it out of here! Get them out of here! Drop them! No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, we got a couple of listener questions. Let's blow through those real quick.
Got some questions here, and have been on a high success rate on answering questions. So, Carrie wants to know, do you go with James White or Sony Michel this week? They must have both of them. And it's interesting because Jax and I have both of them in the listener league, and we have the same dilemma. This is what people have been talking about all day long. I asked Carrie, is it PPR or standard? It's PPR. I say go with James White.
Off the top of your head?
I say go with James White. I absolutely do. What do you think, Jax?
James White.
All right.
Yeah. So
unanimous.
Until he doesn't get a touchdown, you play him.
Yeah. John wants to know, do I stick with the hot hand?
Is John Marchbanks asking you questions via Twitter? Like, what's going on here?
Sneaking in there for his other league. No, he could answer better than I can. He wants to know, do you stick with the hot hand and play Fitz Magic at the Bears, or do you play Case Keenum Monday night at home versus KC? He's a little worried about Case Keenum because...
Don't like either one, but I like Case Keenum better.
Put up 200 last week to hurt him a little bit, but... as much as I believe in the ride the hot hand theory, Josh Miller and I talk about this all the time. It is impossible to put up fantasy numbers as a quarterback in Chicago. It's just a horrible place to play. I think that's one of the reasons why the team is like, yeah, Fitz is the starter this week. I kind of joked on Twitter that like Fitz was like, well, yeah, but I mean, he's the franchise quarterback because no one wants to play against Khalil Mack,
No.
you know? So they have a bye week after that.
score.
But Kansas City is one of 3 teams to allow a quarterback one performance for 3 weeks in a row. So they've got Monday night big stage at home versus Kansas City. Kansas City, their defense sucks, and they've got Emmanuel Sanders, Demaryius Thomas, Royce Freeman, Phillips Lindsay. I think that Keenum is the play over Fitz. Travis wants to know, should I stash Olsen on IR? The problem is I have Alshon on IR right now.
So it's Olsen or Alshon.
Yeah, so I told him I think that Alshon is coming back next week, so he should take Alshon off of the IR and put Greg Olsen in there. So
I agree.
You would have 2 kind of IR players, but only one of them in the slot. Anne wants to know defenses because she said that she's listened to us and you know we've talked so much about the Browns. She wants to know Browns at Raiders or the Chargers at home versus the 49ers. We've pumped up the Browns so much. So the first thing, Ann, is drop one of your defenses after this week. And we talk about this all the time. Like, just don't keep 2 defenses on your roster. Pick up a position player. Pick up one of these other players that we were talking about. But I would say definitely the Chargers D at home versus the 49ers. You got to go with the home play here. I love the Browns D. They've been very consistent, but you know, CJ Beathard is a dink and dunker. He'll probably throw some picks, and Chargers will probably feast at home, and this will probably be a blowout, I would think.
And that Cleveland-Oakland game is a sneaky blowout, like up-tempo kind of.
You
like,
think
let's score some
that
points.
game? Yeah, we were talking about that earlier.
First week with Baker,
Yeah.
I mean, you implement the offense with them. You got Jarvis, Carlos Hyde.
Carlos
Njoku.
Hyde might have a hard time running against that team, so that game could definitely be a pass-heavy game. So go against the Chargers D. Greg wants to know, should he play a Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry, Antonio Callaway stack in DFS? And I said, yeah, it's a contrarian play. Do it. I mean, it'll probably be a low percentage play, and who knows? It's also a very cheap play that'll allow you to pay up at other positions. And if that play smashes, do it. The only thing I was going to say is if you do that, I would come back with a Raider, and wouldn't you come back with maybe
I come back with Cook.
Yeah, Jared
Cook? Because
Yeah,
Cleveland's pretty bad against the tight end, right?
Because you either have it'd be Denzel Ward on Cooper. I mean, I'd go Cooper. I'd
Okay.
go
Yeah, the
Cook.
Cleveland's coverage defense is tops right now.
They
So
kind of
the
sell
wide
out. They
receivers-
kind of sell out the middle of the field for that. Well, that's great because I told him on Twitter. I said, "Hey, I'll ask the guys later. I don't really know who to come back with because I don't have trust in Cooper or Jordy Nelson."
For Cleveland to have a nationally televised game this early in the season, I mean,
pretty huge.
For them to even actually have one, that's huge. But I mean, if you watch that game, New York was focusing on the run. But it's like on the outside they had nothing. But had they had a tight end that was actually like predominant, they could have exploited that defense.
Very good point.
Your other play could be Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah, see, that's the one that I said. I said I would lean towards Marshawn Lynch because if they're trying to get ahead and slow down the game, Cleveland's going to have to come back and pick up the tempo. So I don't know.
Cleveland's got the 31 graded defense, 31st worst graded defense by Pro Football Focus, or run defense.
Well, Jackson brought that up, and we definitely are looking to play him in DraftKings this week because he's really cheap.
And similar runners to kind of like how Marshawn is, Cleveland's allowed 4 touchdowns to bruiser downhill runners such as James Conner and Isaiah Crowell.
So if that game shoots, that would be a sneaky game to stack, and maybe you stack it with Lynch and Cook.
Yeah,
But you
In the
can't.
3
There's
rounds.
no way you can play Cooper. I mean, honestly,
No.
I wouldn't play him the rest of the year.
No, I don't think so either. One more from Beth. Should I trade Gronk for Trey Burton and Larry Fitzgerald?
No.
I say no. I'm going with Gronk.
I say no. John is quizzical right now.
Trey Burton's got a lot of upside.
Yeah.
I mean, he's definitely never going to put up Gronk numbers, but he's been pretty consistent so far.
And what about Fitzgerald?
She said I need a wide receiver, and I told her about all these wide receivers that are on waiver wires. Fitz has not been that great right now.
He's the reason why I would say no. If there was another higher
counter
tier wide receiver,
Tell her to counter for another wide receiver.
But also, you don't know like what his rapport is going to be with Rosen.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't trust with Fitzgerald on that trade. I would definitely counter with somebody like I don't know Tyler Boyd if somebody has him, unless
right.
She can pick him up.
Right.
Yeah.
And she said that was her instinct as
Calvin
well.
Ridley.
And I'm glad we got questions from Ann and Beth because our call-in next week is Bronco Becca,
Nice.
Who I met on Twitter. Her account has actually grown faster than us. I think hers is probably the fastest growing account in the fantasy football community right now, and Paulie Sleepers is a close second. And I told her I was a little jealous because I thought we were blowing up faster than everybody else. And she said, well, it helps to have a cute girl in the profile pic. But
Wilson, that's your call.
Wilson, we're just messing with you, man. But we saw those pictures with the Wahlbergs, and it was a girl. And we were like, okay, is Wilson a girl or is Wilson?
There's a little bit of question there.
But Bronco Becca, her name is Rebecca. She's a Broncos fan, obviously. She's also gotten a writing gig now, and she's writing for one of the big websites, and we'll talk about that next week. But she's a great follow on Twitter, and she's going to break down the Monday Night Football game for us. So she's going to stay up and watch it all, and when we have her on Wednesday, she'll be breaking down the Chiefs Broncos Monday Night Football game. We'll talk about her writing gig and kind of the outlook for the Broncos, and she's really excited, obviously, because the Broncos got a breath of fresh air this year. They made a great draft, and they made a great pickup in Case Keenum, and they got a great core of players. So
I'll try to be civil towards her.
Yeah, so John's got the Raiders Broncos rivalry.
Right.
So yeah, that's it for that, and I think we're gonna go.
Are you guys ready for some hot takes? Are you ready?
Let's get it.
So hot in here, so hot and can't nobody stop the juice. So baby, tell me what's the use? I said it's getting hot in here.
All right, number one. I want to hear John's hot take just because he killed it last week, so I want to hear it.
My hot take is that Calvin Ridley is going to outscore Julio again this week.
All right. Let's go. I like hearing it.
Wow. Calvin Ridley outscores Julio again. Well, so Julio got 3 touchdowns last year, and Ridley got 3 touchdowns last week. Mm-hmm. That is insanity.
Calvin has 5 touchdowns in his first 3 games. Julio has 5 touchdowns in his last 25.
So we could just keep on going with that horrible crap. Fucking, I owe to the swear jar now.
Yes, you do.
I'm getting a little hot in here because I need Julio to pick it up, man. I'm gonna kind of core him up on DraftKings. I've got him in my league of record. I've got him in another league. Man, I just feel bad because John's usually pretty right on the money. So that's good. Your hot take on Cleveland's defense being good was good. They've got 3 very consistent weeks now, all in the 9 to 11 point range, which is a great pickup to just stream a defense. So, all right, that's good. Last week, Jax, you got 2. So you snuck a second hot take in there. The first one was the Josh Gordon, which we don't know how that's going to play out yet. The only thing I will say is every week that goes by that he doesn't play,
it's looking more unlikely.
Is going to make it unlikely. But you also said that Dallas Goedert would be a smash play, and he was the number 1 tight end in the league last week. Unbelievable. Nobody called Dallas Goedert. I told you were crazy because he had 1 catch in the first 2 games, but that was a good take. So far, all of our takes are looking pretty good, and some of them are going to, take some time to develop. So what's your hot take this week?
Yeah, so my hot take this week is that the trio of Eli Manning, Saquon Barkley, and Odell Beckham Jr. will outscore the trio of Breeze, Kamara, and Michael Thomas.
Well, there you go.
In his last 3 games versus the Saints, Eli has thrown for 997 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. In his only 2 games versus the Saints, Odell has gone for 16 receptions, 216 yards, and 3 touchdowns. In the past 3 games versus the Saints, the running backs have gone for 286 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground, as well as 18 catches for 140 yards and a touchdown. Play you some Giants.
So you're saying that my DraftKings tournament Giant stack might be a very nice stack.
It'd be a great stack if we could afford all of them. But I mean, you're gonna have to pivot with Shepard.
Oh, I can afford them. I'm Paulies sleepers, man. I can always.
Hey,
I can always find the cheap plays to get the pretty boys in there.
We're gonna go for it.
I like it. So, Juice, last week your Colts.
Last week, my Colts D
defense.
stepped up. It did exactly what I said it was going to do. It was going to outscore the defense that I was going to play, the Houston Texans defense.
What'd they end up scoring in fantasy?
Just 15 points.
Jesus, that was a good week. Like that.
They had interceptions, like I said they would. They I want to say they even had a fumble recovery.
Yeah, Marcus Hunt got a fumble recovery.
Yeah, and Marcus Hunt, like I said, I love that guy. I mean, I think they're going to keep doing
Do you
it.
love that guy?
Oh, I do. I'm a
Because
big
the look
fan.
in your eye right there was so passionate.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so just,
Dude,
I love Darius Leonard, and
I
you know
love
that
seeing the defense be awesome.
the Colts were the cheapest defense on DraftKings last week.
Yeah, and they were so close to winning that game that it's sad. It's heartbreaking.
Well,
Really.
Josh and I started poking the beast because we were talking about the hot takes, and I was like, yeah, I told him they're out there. He could pick them up and play them. And Josh was like, yeah, man, put up or shut up. And you said what? These colors don't bleed, right?
Or no, I said these colors don't run.
Oh, these colors don't run,
and
right?
And I picked them up and started
and
them.
Juice played him in the listener league because he kind of had to after all that stuff.
Right.
But
and they ended up doing a great job.
Great call, man. Like if we could have wrapped our DraftKings situation around that and played a $2,000 play for 15 points, that was pretty good. So
I don't know what they would have gotten in DraftKings.
They got
probably
10.
10.
yeah, still that's
Because they gave up I think they gave up the last score. I think they would have been good until then.
But like on DraftKings, you count interceptions, fumble recoveries, and
But
then
still, for the
sacks.
cheapest play, if you go 4x or 4.5,
And I think they had
that's
5 sacks.
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
next
was
time you
awesome.
have that kind of feeling, let us know, and we'll just make them, because defense is the hardest thing to pick.
Yeah, and
It's the hardest
It was
thing
me
to pick.
mainly being a Colts homer, basically. But
So what's yours this week?
So I actually have 2. I'm just going to throw them out there really quickly. If Josh Gordon starts this weekend, he's going to have 2 touchdowns. And then my second one is there's a chance that I see Colin Kaepernick potentially playing in the NFL again and for the 49ers.
Well, breaking news on the Kaepernick. Like what broke it on their show, Nike cut him. Like there's no more promotion ad for that whole thing that they did with Kaepernick.
Really?
Like they cut ties with him completely.
That's interesting because I heard their stock was down, but then I heard that it
went way back
online was
up.
like they had a record.
They sold
quarter.
out 60% more than they were before.
That's interesting. I mean, do you think that they would be able to forget everything that happened?
Dude, I don't
and
know.
Bring him back on the team.
It's one of those things that the reason that I have this take is because I was listening to a podcast and there was Mike Florio was on it, and Mike Florio was talking about the fact that Gethard's going to be starting. They have 4 games on national television this year, and there's like when Rodgers went down last year, nobody watched any or it may not have been last year, but whenever it was. When Rodgers went down, the ratings of the games that he was playing in went just dive bombed. And the fact that if you brought Kaepernick back onto your team, it's the money. Like it doesn't matter if they win or lose. Like it's the money that they're going to make from the people watching. People are going to watch. They're going to watch.
So maybe this Nike thing fits that narrative because
Exactly.
maybe they're like, well, we need to cut ties with all the people that this pissed off.
Right.
That's interesting.
And then
I mean,
then it kind of takes the takes
a
a
hell of
little
a hot
bit of
take.
takes a little bit of the sour taste out of the NFL's mouth because he's not being supported by the Nike
right.
brand.
So your hot take is he's going to be a 49er.
Potentially. Like I said, that's a completely that's out of this world. Like if I'm right about that, then something weird happened. But
That's insane.
But I think the Josh Gordon one's more down to earth, and it's going
not
to
out
happen.
of it's not out of the realm of possibilities. Mine was, and my hot take was after week 1, I made a big claim on Twitter, and then I made the claim, the last week as well, so that Fitzpatrick would start over Jameis Winston, and he's been announced as the starter.
Yep.
So I think now what I see is that they probably just don't want to play Jameis at Chicago, and they've got a bye week 5. So look for him to maybe start week 6, but I don't know. It depends on how bad Fitz gets slaughtered. I mean, like I said, no one plays well there. So if Fitz goes into that house and wins, forget about it. I mean, I seriously think that he's in jeopardy of losing his job. So for now, my hot take is looking pretty good too. And my hot take for this week is, I already said it, next week Robert Turbin is going to come in for the Colts and revitalize our running game. Give us the bruiser one. I mean, that Eagles offense needs a Jay Ajayi type person. I think Turbin has leveled up. I think that whatever drugs he took has made his arms like sequoias. He's faster than he's looked in the past. I mean, I always said that, like, hey, if I need 2 yards, I'm going to give him the ball. He'll get me my 2 yards. But I think he's leveled up way past that. And our landscape, I mean, Jordan Wilkins is not ready to take a big role. Like I said, Marlon Mack, he's been getting banged up. We released Christine Michael. So Michael's off the team. I think Robert Turbin comes in. We'll have to wait a couple weeks for this take, but I think he comes in and really makes a splash for the Colts as a running back.
Or Ballard trades for Le'Veon Bell. I would not be pissed off if that happened. Like, I'd be super stoked.
I got to see Le'Veon play first. I'm also, the last thing, really quick, I'm getting into betting, and I took.
Good for you.
I took the Colts over the Texans at a 2-point favorite. That line's shifting to the Colts having even a higher favorite, like, ranking or whatever. So I got it in a little bit lower, so I'm going to make more money than somebody who's getting in on it now. So I'm just pretty happy about that.
Okay. I'm
going to keep betting the Colts. Like, I got to. It makes the game even more entertaining. I'm kind of like a drug addict when it comes to these kind of things. Like, when it comes to DraftKings, and then I hear people talking about winning money betting. I'm like, dude, I gotta try it.
Well,
because I'm not going to win if I don't play.
On that end, the only thing that kind of like concerns me, if, like, say Houston goes up in this game, can Luck get the ball 20 yards down the field? Like,
a lot of people were worried about that.
We
that
know
deep
he can
ball.
get it 20 yards down the field. Let's
but I mean,
not be
progressively.
Like 60 yards is the problem. That's when he.
Well, the thing
throw.
is, though, that 50-yard, Hail Mary. Honestly, in my opinion, it had nothing to do with the arm strength. It was like, why are we going to put him out there and let him get killed by somebody? That's what I hope. That's what it was.
They pretty much said that they wanted to make sure the ball got through the end zone, and Brissett's got a cannon. I mean, they didn't say.
I know they said that, but I would hope that that's not the case, because if there are people that are significantly younger in, like, college that can make that throw that are weaker players.
Yeah. The other thing too is, I heard it on a podcast I listened to today. He like, out of all the quarterbacks that have played this year, he has the lowest average ADOT, like average depth of target, out of all the entire league. Like,
even Alex Smith, because
he trails behind him.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, what was it, like, by halftime? I think the Colts had like 27 total yards.
Yeah.
Oh, another thing, Ryan Grant has one of the best catch rates in the league right now, and if both of those tight ends sit, Doyle and Ebron, Ryan Grant will have
He'll be a stud.
He'll have a day.
All right, guys. I think we've covered everything. I just want to give a really quick shout-out to the PTO Unlimited podcast, because they gave us a shout-out on their podcast.
All right.
They just got done recording theirs.
Go to PauliesSleepers.com. Go to @PauliesSleepers on Twitter. Look for our DraftKings lineups later in the week on the website. Look for my updates all week long. Guys, if you like fantasy football, you don't have to do a lot on Twitter. Just get on there and follow a few people that do football. Your timeline will be filled with football. It's not like Facebook where you have to see a bunch of other BS. And I'm pretty active on there. So,
what's the last thing, John? I saw you lean up to the mic.
You guys said something about a sponsor earlier, so I didn't know if you wanted to talk about them.
Yeah, so Dylan is sponsoring some clothes, and Wilson is sponsoring a box set. I forget the band, and then we also have some food.
We have Yero's Food and Art Studios in Nashville, Indiana.
And also, this podcast will soonly be sponsored by our DraftKings winnings on Goose's account.
Absolutely.
It's going to happen sometime soon, but
it's happening this weekend.
We also might have an off-site correspondent. Smiley's trying to get into some interviews in the Colts, and he wanted to use Paulies Sleepers, and I was like, yeah, sure, go ahead. You'll just have to like share your interviews with us in the podcast. So, we'll see how it goes. He's a very gregarious
once he gets into
man.
something, he'll dive completely in.
Right.
And who's this?
Smiley. That's
Derek Walter.
Yeah, Derek Walter. Shout out to Derek. He asked if he can use Paulies Sleepers as a reference to get into the Colts, and I said, yeah, tell him you're our off-site correspondent.
Yeah, and I actually hit up Blitzed NFL Radio on Twitter. They want to talk to us, so might talk to them sometime on the podcast.
Okay, right on.
But thanks again, guys, listening. It was a great time. Thanks for joining us, for Paulie, for John, and for Jackson. Let's get out of here, guys.
Good luck this week.
We out ya.
Juice in the morning.